June 1943, Pas-de-Calais, northern France. 8 kilometers from the English Channel. German engineers stand before a limestone hill near the hamlet of Mimoyecques, staring at what will become the mouth of vengeance itself. In their hands, blueprints for something the world has never seen. A gun so massive, so audacious, that it defies the very physics of artillery warfare. Code name, Wheeze, Meadow. The irony is not lost on anyone. This meadow will house 50 barrels pointed like accusatory fingers at London, 165 kilometers away, Hitler's third revenge weapon, the V3. The concept belongs to August Coenders, a machine gun engineer who studied captured French documents from 1918. Those documents described a multi-stage gun, France's answer to Germany's Big Bertha, that had terrorized Paris. But this is different. This is evolution. 125 meters of steel barrel, 32 secondary explosive charges arranged in lateral chambers along its length. As the shell races through, each charge detonates in sequence, propelling it faster, until it screams from the muzzle at 1,500 meters per second. The promised fire rate, 600 shells per hour. London would not survive the mathematics of such bombardment. Coender's boss, Hermann Rochling, is a personal friend of Hitler. He sees opportunity, glory. Albert Speer, Reich Minister of Armaments, adds his considerable weight to the project. By September 1943, Organization Todt begins excavation. Over 5,000 workers descend on Mimoyecques. German engineers from Mannesmann, Krupp, Gute Hoffnungshütte. 430 miners from the Ruhr. Soviet prisoners of war in chains. The original plan calls for 2 parallel underground facilities, 1 kilometer apart, each housing 5 inclined shafts dug into chalk at 50 degrees. 5 gun barrels per shaft, 50 guns total. Below ground, workers carve railway tunnels 30 meters deep, 650 meters long. Ammunition galleries branch off like arteries. A power station. Air conditioning for 1,000 artillery troops who will live underground, feeding London's destruction. But physics does not care about ambition. At the Hillersleben proving ground near Magdeburg, Coenders encounters reality. By the end of 1943, the gun's basic principle is failing. The shells flip during flight, lacking stability. When everything works perfectly, muzzle velocity reaches barely 1,000 meters per second, nowhere near the promised 1,640. The barrel, constructed in 3-meter sections, develops brittleness. Under pressure, it cracks. Lieutenant General Erich Schneider, who believes in the V1 and V2, calls the V3 fantasy. Professor Werner Osenberg, head of the German Wartime Scientific Research Council, confirms what the engineers whisper. The high-pressure pump is fraught with problems that probably cannot be solved. Hitler does not care. After the RAF bombs Peenemünde on August 17th, the Führer demands the gun be built without further testing. Work accelerates at Mimoyecques, despite the technical failures. The site is chosen for multiple reasons. Too far inland for Royal Navy guns, inaccessible to commando raids. The chalk hill provides natural protection, and the distance to London, mathematically perfect for Hitler's calculations of terror. September 1943. Allied reconnaissance photographs capture abnormal activity. An analyst named Andre Kenny spots something peculiar on a photo sortie. A haystack concealing one shaft entrance has disintegrated, perhaps torn apart by autumn gales. It reveals the shaft opening, a windlass, a pulley. The Allies do not know what they are looking at. MI6 reports mention concrete chambers and tubes 40 to 50 meters long, described as rocket-launching cannons. Intelligence analysts believe these are V-2 launch tubes. They are wrong, but their ignorance will not save Mimoyecques. November 5th, 1943. The first bombs fall. United States 9th Air Force strikes on the 5th, 8th, and 10th. Damage is minimal. The bombs cannot penetrate 30 meters of chalk and 5 meters of reinforced concrete. But the Germans know now. The British are watching. Work continues underground at frantic pace. Frenchmen, Italians, Russians, Poles are bussed from camps several kilometers west, 12-hour shifts hacking at limestone. The target dates: first battery of 5 guns by March 1944, full complement by October 1st. They will miss both deadlines. March 1944. Reality forces revision. The Eastern Front bleeds Germany dry. Allied bombing devastates cities. Materials run scarce. The second bunker site is abandoned entirely. Plans reduced to 15 guns in 3 shafts, then to just 5 guns in a single drift. The vision of 600 shells per hour becomes a fever dream. But Hitler will not relent. On the surface, workers pour concrete for the protective dome. 5.2 meters thick, capped with 200-millimeter steel plates. Inside the tunnels, the scale overwhelms. Gallery after gallery carved from chalk. Railway tracks laid in darkness. The sound of picks and pneumatic drills echoes endlessly. Hundreds of slave laborers work until they collapse. July 5th, 1944. British intelligence learns of 3 planned firings from Mimoyecques aimed at central London. The response is immediate. July 6th dawns clear. Morning, 100 Halifax bombers carpet-bomb the area. Afternoon, 16 Lancaster bombers of 617 Squadron approach. Wing Commander Leonard Cheshire leads them. These are the Dambusters, the elite who breached the Mona and Eder dams 15 months earlier. Their weapon today, tallboy earthquake bombs, designed by Barnes-Wallace, 5,400 kilograms each, 6.4 meters long, streamlined to near supersonic velocity, designed not to destroy on impact, but to penetrate deep underground before detonating, creating artificial earthquakes that collapse structures from within. The Lancasters fly at high altitude. Bomb bays open, 16 tall boys fall. The bombs spin as they drop, aerodynamic perfection, accurate beyond any conventional munition. They reach terminal velocity, impact. One tall boy punches through the concrete dome atop Drift 4. Direct hit. The drift collapses instantly. 3 more tall boys penetrate the railway tunnels. The detonations come seconds later. Underground, the artificial earthquake begins. Galleries cave in. Tunnel ceilings fracture. Support beams snap like kindling. Railway tracks twist into unusable wreckage. Water floods the lower levels. And the workers, those hundreds of slave laborers deep underground with no warning, are entombed alive. Approximately 300 men buried in an instant. German engineers and prisoners together, crushed under thousands of tons of collapsing chalk. The raid is decisive. Construction work staggers, but attempts continue. Hitler orders new plans on July 12th. Only 5 guns now. The other drifts will house conventional artillery, Rheinbote missile launcher, anything to salvage the project. But it is too late. Allied armies advance from Normandy. July 16th. The labor force evacuates. July 30th. Organization Todd receives orders to end construction. August brings more bombing. Over 4,100 tons of bombs ultimately fall on Mimoyecques, more than any other V-weapons site. One final tragic note. August 12th, Operation Aphrodite. Lieutenant Joseph P. Kennedy, Jr. pilots a B-24, Liberator crammed with 10 metric tons of explosives, a primitive drone meant to crash into Mimoyecques. The plan: fly to altitude, set the course, bail out while a trailing aircraft assumes remote control. The B-24 explodes without warning over Blythburgh, Suffolk, 20 minutes after takeoff. Kennedy, elder brother of a future president, dies instantly. The mission accomplishes nothing. Mimoyecques is already dying. September 5th, 1944. Canadian 3rd Infantry Division arrives at the fortress. The Germans are gone. The site sits abandoned, a monument to hubris buried in French chalk. The Canadians and British inspect what remains. They drain water from lower levels as much as possible. A report reaches Winston Churchill. Mimoyecques could be repaired and made operational again. Churchill's response is immediate: destroy it. The French government objects. They were not consulted. Churchill ignores them. The complex is partially demolished on his direct orders. Even in defeat, London's Prime Minister will not tolerate this weapon's existence. But the V-3 story does not end at Mimoyecques. December 1944. Battle of the Bulge. Germany installs 4 shorter-barreled guns, 50 meters long instead of 125. 2 guns outside Lampadon in Germany target Luxembourg, 50 kilometers distant. 2 more outside Buhl in Alsace target Belfort. The results are pathetic. Between December 30th and February 22nd, the Lampadon guns fire 183 shells at Luxembourg. 4 people die. 13 wounded. The only military asset damaged: a mobile laundry. The Buhl guns manage even less before the deteriorating military situation forces their dismantling. After the war, American forces find the disassembled gun tubes and ammunition at the Rochling Works in Wetzlar. They ship everything to Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Tests. Evaluation. In 1948, the remaining components are scrapped. The V-3, Hitler's supergun, the weapon that would rain fire on London, becomes scrap metal in an American salvage yard. The mathematics were always fantasy. Even if Mimoyecques had been completed, even if the guns had worked as promised, a fixed artillery installation is simply a target. The tall boys would have come again, or conventional bombing would have eventually succeeded, or the advancing Allied armies would have overrun it. The V-3 was obsolete before its first concrete pour, but Hitler, desperate and rattled, for the first time since the war began, demanded it anyway. He poured resources Germany could not afford into a weapon that could not succeed. The slave laborers paid with their lives. The engineers wasted months solving unsolvable problems. And London, the target of such elaborate hatred, never heard a single shell. Today, Mimoyecques is a museum. Visitors walk those same tunnels, see the collapsed galleries, touch the remains of railway systems and excavators. Memorials honor the slave laborers who died there, and the airmen killed destroying it. The gun barrel muzzles remain visible on the hillside, pointed forever at nothing. At the surface, bomb craters still pockmark the protective dome. The scale still impresses this monument to technological ambition, unmoored from strategic reality. The V-3 was Hitler's doomsday weapon that never was. A gun longer than a football field that could not hit its target. A fortress deeper than a 10-story building that could not withstand earthquake bombs. a terror weapon that terrified no one except the men forced to build it. In the hierarchy of Nazi Wunderwaffen, the wonder weapons that would turn the tide of war, the V3 stands as perhaps the most delusional. Not because the engineering was impossible, but because even if it had worked perfectly, it would have changed nothing. The war was already lost. The V3 was just another exercise in denial, carved into French limestone by enslaved hands, destroyed by British precision, and forgotten by everyone except historians who study the mathematics of desperation.